Hello and welcome to the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia Pacheco and I'm on a mission to help online businesses step out of digital overwhelm and step into their creative potential. This podcast is all about helping women get more in tune with the analytics and SEO side of their business without the digital burnout. Get more information about the podcast at digimorphs.com. Hello, welcome. This is episode number 81 of the Digitally Overwhelmed podcast. My name is Cynthia, your host, and hey, it's October. It's my B-Day month. I'm pretty excited. I always get confused because I was brought up in Canada and I always related my birthday to fall, to Halloween, to candy, to leaves and trees, orange trees and cold. But here in Argentina, my birthday is in spring. What? Spring? It's like, what? I still can't wrap my head around that. But it is spring here. It's beautiful. It's one of the best seasons here because it's not too hot. And it's mild and there's lots of birds and sunshine. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about one simple dashboard small businesses can start with when it comes to Google Analytics. And I just want to say a little disclaimer before we start. Google Analytics is absolutely essential to running an online business. That's not really a disclaimer. It's just like a note because so many times I see people avoiding their data and I get it. It's overwhelming. The tool's ugly, but it's getting prettier. Have you been in there lately? It's not that bad. And today I wanted to show you a really simple dashboard that's already set up for you in Google Analytics. Yes, it's already there. All you need to do is open it up and look at it. And I'm going to walk you through it so you can breathe and relax, not freak out about what the data is trying to say to you. Before I do that, I also want to mention that, surprise, surprise, I do have my own Google Analytics services. I'm going to be talking more about those at the end of the episode, but if you are looking for some more hands-on support with your data, you want to start actually using it, maybe set up some opt-ins, some conversion metrics in there, but you're not sure, please head on over to my site, digimorphs.com, go to the contact page and send me a message. If you're more of an Instagram kind of person, you can also go to digimorphs.com or my handle, digimorphs, and you can send me a message there as well and I'll talk to you about it. So just wanted to say that. Okay, so where is this mysterious dashboard? So if you open up your Google Analytics, the first thing you see, like in home, is Google Analytics Home. So it's this is the dashboard I'm talking about. And this is pretty recent. So this year, Google Analytics has sort of tried to start making the tool prettier. And this is a great place to start because this is one of the prettiest, if I can say so, reports. It's the more well designed. So we're going to be scrolling down this, and I really recommend just opening this up on your computer right now and scrolling through me, or pause it. You can pause it. I'll still be here, and then open it up, and then we can go through this. So there's about there's quite a few reports here. We're not going to go through all of them, but I do want to give you a basic walkthrough so that when you open up Google Analytics, you look at this and you don't freak out. You're like, okay, I know what this is. I can handle this. And the cool thing is that all these reports actually link to the bigger, more complex reports. So you can see at the bottom right of each little reportlet, there's a little link. For example, in the first one, audience overview, there's a link that takes you to the full report. So if there is one of these reports that makes you slightly curious, right? You can you can click through. Okay, so let's dive in. So the first one is the audience overview. So this is kind of like a heartbeats a report that tells you how many users visited your site in the last 7 days. So there on the top, the bottom left, you see last 7 days, but if you click there, you can actually change that to be the last 14 days or the last 28 days. I usually click it to 28 because I like to see a little bit more data, but it's up to you. I guess if this is the first time you're looking at this, you can just keep it as is. But remember, the key thing with looking at any piece of data is that you need to understand the context. So if you're looking at the last 7 days, just think about what have you done in terms of marketing or your site changes? What have you done in the last 7 days that you'd want to know about? If you are doing your monthly business review, then you might want to open it up to the last 28 days because you can analyze what has happened in the last 28 days on your site. And so there you can see spikes. You can see right now it's users, but if you actually click on sessions, it will switch to sessions. Sessions are visits, and then bounce rate and session duration. So I would recommend just starting with users and sessions. That's a great place to start. And you see under those metrics, there's like a little green thing or a little red little arrow. It's like going up. If it's up, it's green. If it's down, it's red. So that is a comparison to the last period. So for example, if you have last 7 days, it will compare what your traffic was like from the other last 7 days. So the last 7 days and the previous last 7 days. So if it's gone up or down, again, it's a great place to start to say, look at that. Last month I had less traffic. This month I have more traffic. What have I been doing this month to maybe increase that traffic to my site? Cool. Yeah, makes sense. I'm not going to get into bounce rate and session duration, but those are other great metrics to start with to look at. Yeah, let's just keep going. So we're going to scroll down and you can see there that there's a little question that says, how do you acquire users? So this is exactly what this report shows us. And it's called an acquisition report. It tells us where we got our traffic from. Again, like the previous report, we can filter on the last 7 days or the last 30 days, and we can analyze it by day. So here we actually have it broken out per day where we got the traffic from our site. So I'm going to quickly go through each of these values. So referral means other sites. So if you've got affiliate sites, or if you are an actual affiliate, a paid affiliate, these are other sites that might come up for you. If you've written a guest post on another site, maybe this will also be your podcast. If you have a podcast link, that sort of thing. That's like other traffic coming into your site from other sites. Direct are people who are typing in the URL, your site, or they're copying and pasting it, or they have a bookmark. That's direct, and it's normal for it to be very high, especially for return users. If you think about anybody you follow on an ongoing basis, you don't necessarily search for them in Google. You just type in their URL, and that's it. Organic search are Google searches. So someone is typing, how to how to get my cat to get off my paper. So if you've got a great article about that, it's going to come up in the search results. Someone clicks on that, and that's an organic search acquisition channel. Social is the easiest one to understand for many of you. So that's Facebook or Instagram, YouTube, any social network, even LinkedIn. And you'll see a bunch of random ones like Reddit in there too. And if you have other, do not fret. That's usually just an acquisition channel that Google doesn't fully identify. So they just put it in other. And you can actually, again, if this report is curious to you, if you click on the little link on the right, bottom right there, you can click into that report a little more and see like the specifics of each of those. So this is a pretty high level. Now you can see referrals. So at the top, you see traffic channel, source medium, and referrals. If you click on referrals, you can see some of the values there. But I think that this report, the best way to look at it is from a high level, just again, thinking in the last week or in the last month, what have you done in terms of your marketing? And then looking at the results here. If you've been sending email campaigns, it would also come up under email. If you've been doing any specific Facebook work on your Facebook group or Instagram stuff, you'll see kind of how much of that is coming in. Yeah, doing great. Okay, so let's move on to the next set of reports. We're actually going to skip the how are your active users trending over time, how well do you retain users, and we're going to scroll down to when do your users visit. So this is interesting. Here we've got a kind of heat map report that tells us the times of day and the days of the week that we've got the most users on our site. So this is last 30 days. So we got like a trend over the last 30 days. And you can analyze, what times of the day and which days people are most active. So this can actually play into your marketing. So you can also use this to impact maybe your email campaigns or your social media. You could also decide to do a series and tell people, hey, I'm going to be publishing this blog post every Monday at this time, because you see that people on Mondays are active. So this can definitely play into your content scheduling and just more information about your user. Then where are your users? Well, this one is where are your users? Where are they coming from? Where are they viewing your site from? And this one might surprise you. Sometimes you think your users are coming from a place, but you actually got users in another place. And it can kind of open your mind in terms of, okay, what other sites can I pitch to that also have the same location, or how can I open up and help these other types of users? And then the rightmost report is what are your top devices? So this is really important, and I'm sure many of you know that mobile devices are very popular. People are looking at our site. So I think the best way to use this report is just understanding, what percentage of your users do you look at your site on mobile. And then if you do have a pretty high, over 50%, just making sure the mobile experience on your site is good, and making sure that it's friendly. And then the last report I wanted to show you, if you scroll all the way down, is what pages do your users visit. So here we can see the top trafficking pages for, again, if you have the last 7 days, the last 14 days, the last 28 days, you can see, which pages are most popular. So if you see a page that is just a /, don't freak out. That's normal. That's your home page. So most home pages just have a /. That's the way Google Analytics picks it up. And that's usually the most popular page, right? So our home page is kind of the front door to our site. And then the other pages there, what you can do is, again, think about how you want people to be navigating your site. And if you have any pages there that you didn't expect to be popular, but they are, maybe you can think about updating them. How can you make that page even more friendly for those people, and make sure that it has everything that they need. So that is a starting point for you. I think that if I were to understand any of these reports, one of the key ones would be the acquisition. So the one where we see where you're getting users from and kind of what your marketing is doing. That's the easiest to action, because if you do see that there's a marketing channel that's being really effective for bringing in users and getting them to stay on your site, then investing more time and energy in that is going to be effective for you. So if you're not sure which of all of these is the most important, I would focus on that one. The acquisition report is a great report. So How are you feeling? Okay, so yes, you've done it. You've completed kind of looking at your first dashboard in Google Analytics, and now what, right? Now you're like, okay, what do I do next? So all these reports are really useful, but if you don't actually have a methodology to action them, it can be just overwhelming and just annoying. Like, okay, I know this information, now what? Like, why do I care? But all these reports can be actioned, and that's why I have my Google Analytics retainer services. So for a while, I was doing one-off Google Analytics services, and although many of those have been successful, I found that my clients just needed more time to process and understand the data, and also more time for me to give that to them without totally, having them to focus on what I have to send them every single email. So it gives everybody more time to digest the information. And also, it just gives me more time to get to know your business. So one of the first things we do in the retainer work is we set up some custom conversions. So what is a custom conversion? So in Google Analytics, you can actually track opt-ins, specific opt-ins. You can track sales. You can track newsletter subscriptions. You can track almost anything, and I want to say everything. As long as it's on your site and it has your domain on it, you can track it. So that is a key metric, because instead of just looking at page views, you're actually seeing how many people are completing the things that you want them to complete on your site. So for example, if we think about that marketing channels report, and you can see that a lot of your visits are coming from your Facebook group, but with this conversion metric, you only see that maybe 20% of them actually convert, while people coming from Google searches are converting at 40%. So right there, you see, oh, okay, so I'm spending all this energy on Facebook, I'm getting this amount of conversions, but Google searches are getting way more. So the return on investment becomes very clear from the beginning just by looking at the data. So what I aim for in these retainer services is not just for you to understand the data, but to action it, and to get some real metrics that make a big difference in the decisions you make for your content, for your marketing, for all sorts of parts of your business. So it's not always, a lot of people confuse Google Analytics that it only affects the website. No, it affects all parts of the business, because the website is representation of the business, but there's so many other things that you're doing. The other part of Google Analytics that a lot of people are kind of mystified by is the interest and demographic data. So that's the type of data that you get when you see, what does my user like? What do they do on their weekends? What do they do in their free time? What do they like to read online? So that kind of data is in Google Analytics, yes. And you can use that to inform your ideal client avatar. So if you think that your user is more of a tech nerd, but then through this interest data, you see that they're not, it can shift how you market to them, how you create content for them, and just all many different areas of your business. So the data can be very impactful, and just a lot of people struggle with what to do with it. And that's where I step in, and I literally tell you, take this, let's try this. And it becomes more of a dialogue. So instead of you worrying about the technical parts of setting up the reports, I give you the data. The data is basically presented, and then we have a conversation about it at the next level, right? So I'm already recommending to you what to do with the data, instead of just sitting there and being like, okay, now what? Now I'm just overwhelmed, right? So if you want to dive into your data a little bit more, just get more buddy-buddy with it and start using it as an active component of decision-making process, head on over to my site, digimorphs.com. There's a contact form there, and send me a message. Send me a message and we can talk about the possibility of working together. I'm really on a mission to make data like an inspiring element for small business. And I think it's just something that once you've got the hang of it, you can keep doing it. and it doesn't need to be such a drain, right? So it's like your finances. Do you avoid your finances in your business? No. Like, that doesn't make sense. Same thing with your data. You need to be aware of it. You need to know how your website is functioning. You need to know how your marketing is functioning. And without that, you're kind of flying blind in many cases. You have no idea what's working, what's not, what's really effective. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I'm also on Instagram, like I mentioned before, Digimorphs. You can send me a message and yeah, we can talk. All right, guys, well, it was great. I love talking about data. I hope that you have a great week and see you next week. Bye. Hey, Cynthia here. First of all, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I make these episodes with a lot of love and effort, so there are a couple ways you can support the show. First, leaving a rating and review is amazing because it helps other people like you find the podcast. So if you have an iPhone, you can hop on over to the podcast app, tap the album art for my podcast, Digitally Overwhelmed, tap the reviews tab, and then there you can write a little review. So if you don't have an iPhone like me, you have to go to the iTunes store through your computer and find the podcast and leave me a review there. Otherwise, just leave me a review through whatever podcasting platform you're listening to the podcast on. This is super awesome. Thank you so much. Also, if you found the information in this episode helpful, feel free to share it with someone you think would benefit it. You can do this either just telling them, or you can also share with them the link digimorphs.com/podcast. And there you can find all the episodes. You can listen to them online as well. And lastly, if you do want more information about the podcast, about me, about Digimorphs, get full show notes, maybe a link that someone mentioned, head on over to digimorphs.com/podcast. You can search for this episode and previous episodes and get all the info you want. Thank you again so much for listening, and see you next week.